This thing does not do what you think it does. We're gonna bust some myths today. A lot of people have a really common misconception about this thing, a deflector plate. They think it keeps a softbox or a beauty dish from having a hot spot. Well, my friends, this is a softbox and there's no deflector plate in there whatsoever. It kind of looks the same all over the place. It's pretty even. If you put it on a wall, you actually have a dark spot, not a hot spot. You have a dark spot in the middle. And then and it's pretty even all over here. So there is no bright spot in the middle. So let's take the deflector plate and put it in here. All right, now when you aim it right at the camera, you obviously have a dark spot in the middle. And when you aim it at the wall, look at that. You've got this nasty donut shape here. This is dark, and then you've got this ring of light. You basically created a ring light. How nasty is that? That is not an even, people think it creates an even spread of light. It does not. Okay, yeah, Marcus, but it's when you put the softbox material on it, that's when it creates the nice, even, flat spread. Okay, well, let's put one on there. There we go. We have a dark spot in the middle that is not an even lit all across softbox. Now, when we aim it at the wall, yes, it's a nice, even spread, but watch what happens when I take the deflector plate off and then put the softbox material on. I'm not even putting an inner diffuser on here. This is just the outer diffuser. And lo and behold, there is no hot spot whatsoever. Matter of fact, there's a little bit of a dark spot in the middle there. When we aim it at the wall, behold the wonder. There is no highlight. There's no hot spot whatsoever. That's a nice even spread. That's just as even as if the deflector plate was on there. And the other benefit is this is brighter than if you had the deflector plate on there. So behold this wonder. There's not even an inner diffuser on there. The only time you need an inner diffuser on a softbox is if you have a light that has a focused beam on it and it creates a hot spot in the middle, like a speed light or something that has a Fresnel lens that creates a beam of light. But if you have an open bulb or an open LED, which is the typical what goes on inside of a softbox, the light goes evenly in all directions and there's not a hot spot beam from these. So that's what I have here. I just have a normal open LED and there is no hot spot whatsoever on the wall or when you look at it. And this is without an inner diffuser. And taking the softbox material off and just having a bare softbox, you don't have a hot spot whatsoever. Matter of fact, you have a little bit of a darker spot in the middle. And if you aim it right at the camera, it's pretty even all the way across. So this is not really a hot spot, even if you have nothing on there whatsoever. All right, here I have a 12-inch beauty dish with no deflector whatsoever. It's just a bare, open beauty dish. So it's basically a 12-inch reflector, bare bulb. It's a nice even spread. Let's go up to a 16-inch. Here's my favorite Sunfo 16-inch with a deflector plate. Let's put it on and look at the pattern on the wall here. There is not a dark spot in the middle. There's actually a light spot in the middle. And there's a ring on the out, then there's a dark ring, and then there's a light ring around that. That is not a even spread, but it creates nice lighting on my face. But I just want to show you there's not a dark spot in the middle. There's actually a light spot in the middle. So let's take this deflector plate off, and there should be a bright spot, a hot spot in the middle, right? Well, there you go. There's your light. Anybody see a hot spot in the middle? I see a nice even light there. So let's put a sock over that, which is basically turning it into a little softbox. And there really isn't that much of a bright spot in the middle, is there? It's kind of, there's a line because of the fabric, the weave of the fabric, but that's not really that much of a hot spot. And if you aim this at the wall, you get a nice even spread. Look at that. There's no hot spot with no deflector plate. Now, if we put a deflector plate in there and then put the sock over that, there you go. You got a dark spot in the middle of the little softbox. Now, you're going to get a nice soft spread from this, but it's a lot weaker than if you had no deflector in there. The deflector actually doesn't help at all with the actual spread on your subject. And there's obviously bigger and bigger versions of beauty dishes and softboxes. Also, I'm going to get to some differences in a minute here, but I want to show you this. Look at this light. This is nothing on here. This is just a bare bulb like that. Do you guys see a hot spot in the middle? I don't see much of a hot spot in the middle there. That's about as even of a spread as you get. Now here's another misconception people have. Just because it's an even flat spread, people think this is soft light. It's not. This is hard light. It gives you hard shadows, but it's an even spread. It's not brighter in the middle than on the outside. So this is really good for giving you even lighting all over the place. But it's not soft light. It's a very common misconception. Now there's another difference with beauty dishes that I need to mention. These two look exactly the same, two different companies, Sunfo and Neewer. 16 inches, the dish, the bowl, looks almost exactly the same. But when I use the Sunfo, I like the look better. It's a smoother look, it's dimmer, but it's a nice, softer, smoother look. When I use the Neewer 16-inch, it's blinding me. It's like super, super bright, like literally more than double the amount of light coming out of this. And the shadows looked harder. They're not soft as you think they would, like with this one. So what's the difference between these two? They look almost exactly the same. Really, the only difference is that the deflector plate in the middle on the Sunfo is closer to the bowl. It's only 2 inches from the bowl. This one is 3.5 inches from the bowl. It's further away outwards from the bowl. And that makes a big difference with beauty dishes. The closer the deflector plate is to the bowl, the deeper in it is, the softer the light, but the dimmer the light. And in the case of the Neewer, the further out the deflector plate is, the brighter it is. This is literally more than double the amount of light coming out of this one than the other one. This is 1.5 stops brighter than that one. Only because this deflector plate is 1.5 inches further out from the middle. Big difference. Now you'd think that's great, but the shadows are harder with this thing. They're considerably harder. The shadows with the Sunfo are a lot softer. So when they sold out of the Sunfos, when I made that video, some people started buying the Neewers and probably thinking they're going to get the same results. You're not going to get the same results because the deflector plate is further out. I personally, if you want to get a similar result with the Sunfo, with the Neewer, take the deflector plate off and just use it as a 16-inch reflector. You're going to get softer light, softer shadows than if you had the deflector plate on there. You're not going to get much of a benefit by having a deflector plate on the Neewer NK NARC 16. So if you're going to use both of these and you want similar results, keep the deflector on the Sunfo 16-inch, but take it off of the Neewer 16-inch. Now, a lot of people wonder between white and silver. I personally don't like the white ones because A, they cut down the light quite a bit. They're not as bright as the silver, and I don't like the look. The white gives you a really washed out look. There's like no contrast whatsoever. I don't like the look that gives you. Silver gives you a little bit of a punchier look, but the shadows are still considerably soft when you use something like this Neewer with the shallow deflector plate. And you get more light output from the silvers. And it's just a cooler look. It just looks cooler. I don't like the white ones. They have no personality whatsoever. I mean, it's a matter of taste. Some people like it, some I don't. It's just me. Now here's another two. These are 21 inchers. This one is a Neewer NK NARC 22, and this is a Godox 21 inch. So they're both 21 inches, and the difference is and this is kind of the opposite this case. The Neewer, the deflector plate is closer to the middle of is deeper into the bowl, and with the Godox, the deflector plate is further out. So the Godox in this case is brighter than the Neewer. There is a point of diminishing returns. You would think that the 21 inch creates a softer light than the 16 inch. It really doesn't. It doesn't really look that much better. And actually, I think it looks worse. I like the look of the 16-inch much more than the 21-inch. You don't get softer shadows. This thing is a lot bigger. It's a lot clunkier. It's a lot more awkward to work with. I think the 16-inch is still okay for, if you're driving somewhere with a car. This is not too big. I mean, you can't collapse it like a softbox, but it doesn't weigh anything, and it really withstands the wind outside. Now, that's another thing. Indoors, softboxes all the way. You can get as big as you want, soft light, easy to use. outdoors, you need brighter, more powerful light. So reflectors, my general rule is softboxes indoors, reflectors outdoors. Because you're competing with the sun. You need a lot more light outdoors than indoor. Indoors, you could use a dinky little 30-watt light with a softbox and probably still get away with it. But anyway, so yeah, I only use these things outdoors. I mean, some fashion photographers like to use them indoors. You know, they do their butterfly lighting and stuff. That's not me. I use softboxes indoors and beauty dishes outdoors. I don't use a deflector plate with small ones like this because the deflector plate is basically taking up most of the space of this thing, and there's very little actual reflector showing. So 12-inch beauty dish is great if you take the deflector off, because it becomes a 12-inch reflector and it gives you a really nice light, especially when you have two of them like this. So I really like the 12 inches without the deflector. So what purpose does a deflector actually give you? Well, like I said, if you're using a focused beam light, like a speed light, anything with a Fresnel on the front of it that creates a beam, then yeah, then you want to, smooth out the hot spot, but you don't even need this. Just put an inner diffuser in there and that will give you no dark spot in the middle of the overall fabric. And then the other benefit, the reason I like the deflector on the 16-inch is because when I have the light right here and I'm looking and it's aiming right at my face and it's only 30 inches away, it doesn't blind me. It doesn't hurt my eyes. It's for my eyes. It's not for the actual quality of the light or the shadows or the highlights or the hot spots. It's none of that. It's just easier to look at and it's easier to deal with. The knee-wear, even with the deflector on here, is too painful for my eyes when I have it like this, even with the deflector on there, because the deflector is further out. It focuses the light onto the bowl and into my eyes, and it's just too painful to deal with. So how far in and out the deflector is also makes a difference of how tolerable the thing is to your eyes. But again, as far as photographer goes, the distance in and out depends on, affects the shadow sharpness or softness and the brightness. So that's that. I don't like the 21 inches. I get no benefit from these whatsoever. The light does not look better. I think it looks a little worse actually. Here's a picture taken with a 16-inch with a deflector, and here's a picture taken with a 21-inch with a deflector. Even if you were to put a sock over these and use them as a softbox, you don't need the deflector in there. It just makes things weird. Look at the pattern on the wall. Look at the weird light pattern that it gives. So anyway, to sum it all up, my two favorites are still the Soonfos 16-inch with a deflector and the Neewer LD30 12-inch without a deflector. These are the ones that I use, that I take outside into the world, and I do great stuff, and I really like the look that it gives me. It really, because I put one on each side, it gives me a really nice, flattering, soft look that I like at my age. Some of you like light on one side with shadow on the other. Fine, then you could do that too if you want. These tolerate the wind outside a lot more. I don't like the 21 inches. These are my two favorites. And that's that. So I thought I'd bust some myths today because everybody thinks those deflector plates are just to stop the hot spot. And if you take the deflector off, no hot spot, just nice, even lighting. So I hope this cleared things up for some people. Maybe I confused some of you even more, but for softboxes, the first thing I do is just throw these things out. I don't even use them. Some people like them. Some people swear by them. Not me. I don't. It's just not me. Anyway, okay. Well, there you go. Might be a big deflector giveaway soon. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye.